Hello everybody and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It's Monday.
No shit.
Where do we start? What do we start with?
Not Tottenham and Wolves. Good week, bad week.
There's a very inappropriate.
You look properly confused.
There's a very inappropriate Valentine's Day joke there.
Oh, happy Valentine's
I'll
Day.
save it for the Patreon Q&A later, mate. It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. I don't want to start the pod with swearing.
All
I'm
right.
trying to swear.
Can you do it without swearing?
No.
Okay, fine. Save it.
Yes, it is Valentine's Day, and
Happy Valentine's Day.
we love
sweetheart.
you all, listeners, equally.
I talk to you more than I talk to my wife.
Thank you so much for yeah, it's true. It's very, very true.
Okay,
it's
should
weird.
I do my game week first? Because you don't want to talk about it.
Do you know what? I want to, and I didn't make any moves. I only made one transfer. I sold Alonso.
You missed the deadline again?
No. I sold Alonso for Kilman, and then I thought I'll leave Rudiger in because I want to get Kieran Tierney at some point. I'll leave Rudiger in because Tierney hasn't got a game this week, and I'll wait and see. I'll roll the transfer again so that I've got 2 free transfers coming into game week 26 when I definitely want to get Salah, Tierney, bomb out Ronaldo. So that's 3 transfers already. And then if I want to take a -8, I could. But that's 3 transfers already. That gets me somewhere. And so I left Rudiger in because Rudiger's got a game this week, finally, after a while, assuming he plays.
Are you going to start him?
I also thought about wildcarding. And in the end, I think for everybody, it's like the things that are we are taking into consideration to make FPL decisions. I don't get these flipping words out. I like double game weeks, and he's got a double, and he's got a double, and you should captain Ronaldo because he's got a double and that. I think out the window, like I'm fed up of doing what is the right thing to do logically when your heart, your gut is telling you United are shit at the moment, creating a lot of chances. I think they've created like 70 chances and scored 3 goals or something stupid like that.
They are creating chances, but it's draws against Middlesbrough, Burnley and Southampton. Yeah,
and like despite it being a double game week, could have moved it on, right? Hung on to Trossard. Okay, he had COVID and then didn't end up playing. I've only got Cancelo who didn't play in the end. I know some people had more blanks and more people missing than just the one, but I don't get a sub coming on for him because of the 3 defenders and what have you. I've still got Trossard, Ronaldo and De Gea to go. So one more fixture. I'm on 40 points as it stands. I didn't take a hit, 40 from 10.
I take it you captained Ronaldo.
Yes, I captained Ronaldo. And him going big against Brighton changes everything, but I just don't think they will because Brighton were decent again at the weekend. Kilman came in for 7 points. Trent scored 6. Jared Bowen's the gift that keeps on giving, and I had blanks pretty much everywhere else. The only saving grace is had I wildcarded into the team that I told you that I wanted to. Well, Coutinho didn't do anything. Laporte didn't do anything, and Kieran Tierney didn't have a fixture. So a number of the players that I was going to buy, and Weghorst didn't do anything. So a number of the players that I was going to buy for 26 to set myself up didn't do anything this week anyway. So it's not like I would have wildcarded into players that outperformed my current team. I would have much more enjoyed looking at them in my team though, rather than some of these bastards that are sitting there. I'm sure I messaged you that we had double game week. They're all bastards, really. It just feels like at the moment I've held on to players for logical reasons when my gut has been telling me that it's not the right thing to do based on what I've seen with my eyes and teams and how they're performing. And it's playing out like that, but I just think everybody's struggling as well, right? It's not exactly... people are not filling their boots right now.
How many you scored this week?
40.
Top 10k average is basically 41.
Yeah.
So even if you're a little bit behind, you're not massively behind this week. I think the upcoming week suggests that if you have a bad week, it will not be a good week to have a bad week. Because I think it's realistic to expect that the top 10k average will probably be in excess of 100. I'd be surprised right now with the fixtures if it's not.
Next week, you mean? 26?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got 3 transfers rolling into this. Now,
Have you got 3?
Oh, sorry, 2, and I'm ready to take a -4. So I'm going to make 3 transfers rolling into game week 26. Ronaldo, goodbye. Trossard can go as well, and Ben Johnson will be gone.
Go on then, what's the plan?
Tierney,
Yep.
Mo Salah,
Ovs.
Weghorst.
Injured.
Oh, did he? Okay, so not Weghorst.
Not necessarily, but he did
Fine,
come off injured.
I'll just buy
yesterday.
Josh King to go alongside Emmanuel Dennis.
You're going to buy Jay Rodriguez just because, aren't you?
Nah, I think then I may. I'll go to Breuer.
Can I just say, there's not.
I'll go to Breuer.
I don't think if Weghorst is ruled out, I don't think Jay Rodriguez is necessarily a bad move, just purely because he's quite cheap. I think he's about 5.2 J Rod, and you probably shouldn't be spending more than 4.5 on your forwards at the moment.
I'll go to Breuer. If Weghorst is out with the double,
yeah, I don't
just go to Breuer.
I don't even mind that. He has got a single fixture, obviously, but we've spoken about this numerous times in terms of the single game week fixtures. This weekend, for those without doubles, you've got City at home to Tottenham, which I've been telling everyone is a great fixture for City. I think people believe me a little bit more now. You've got Villa at home to Watford, you've got West Ham at home to Newcastle, you've got Southampton at home to Everton, and you've got Brighton at home to Burnley. So for those the kind of single fixtures, for the 5 home teams this week, they're brilliant fixtures. So I know I would almost guarantee there is a question in the Twitter responses when we asked for questions last night that says, what's a good amount of doublers for this game week?
Who are the best single game week players?
It does not matter. I reckon, and this is honestly, I reckon people should consider this just as an idea to open your mind for this week. Draft a free hit team from those 5 teams that have only got the single fixture. Villa, City, Southampton, Brighton, West Ham. And I bet you it will look like a fantastic free hit team if you just remove the idea of the doublers. So do not overlook those teams with a single game week fixture this week, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Man United have got Leeds away. I understand that's a difficult fixture.
Even you can add that as well,
But
yeah.
is Ben Foster's double that much better than that? Are Watford going to keep a clean sheet against Villa and Palace?
Probably not, but goalkeepers is a little bit different because you can have the
Odd
the
random
kind of
penalty save.
Well, yeah, you can have the erraticness of, for example, what did Angus Gunn score at the weekend? I'll tell you if you bear with me for a moment, Suj. But I know he scored well. He was just outside the bonus. Angus Gunn against Manchester City at the weekend conceded 4 and has got 6.0. So it's the randomness of that, and we've had that before with Foster. He saved the penalty at Arsenal, and I want to say he got a 12 or 13 pointer or so. So, yeah, I wouldn't bother worrying about it from the goalkeeper perspective. That return at Arsenal was 11 points, back in game week 11. So there's a randomness about goalkeepers to a certain extent. But, yeah, you're right. I've seen, I think it was a Brentford correspondent, FPL, Dummy Tom, was tweeting this morning saying Brighton at home to Burnley or Foster with his double. It's not straightforward. Personally, I would go with a doubler, particularly on a goalkeeper.
I mean, a lot of people are counting how many doublers. I could have as low as 6. I could have as high as 9. I think the majority of people will be between 6 and 9. Just by default, you've got 3 Liverpool players. But again, Jota was dropped at the weekend. So how confident are you?
Yeah, but not dropped. He was going to play.
Oh, right, okay.
But he had a dead leg in training after Klopp's press conference on Friday. And they just didn't want to risk it. He obviously came on a sub.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It wasn't a problem. They just, because he wasn't able to train properly on Saturday, they tactically set up for the game with Mane instead of Jota. Klopp said exactly after the game, he said, if it wasn't for the dead leg, Jota would have started.
Right, fair play. My point is, however many doublers you think you have, you will not get that many fixtures because there will be 1 or 2 that won't play 2 games.
Yeah, probably. Although looking at what I've got, I'm probably going to go in with 9.
Oh, King and Dennis, 2 of them, great, well done.
Yeah, but 4 points is better than 2.
Just makes me sick in my mouth.
Until they get to the obvious yellow cards as well.
Yeah.
It could be 3 points is better than 2, couldn't it? I'm not expecting anything from them. I'm not moving them now, am I?
No.
And I don't mind. The second fixture at home to Palace is not that bad. Obviously, Hodgson will know Palace very well, won't he? Although they play very, very differently now to how they played when he was obviously the manager. But he'll know that in terms of the playing ability of players, he'll know a lot of them of their strength. That said, It's two new centre-backs who didn't play under him in Anderson and Gahey. Can I
Yeah.
tell you about my week? Because it was amazeballs.
One thing I'm just going to let you know, put on your radar, is should I make those moves that I mentioned? I actually forget Trossard to Salah. I'll go Billy Gilmore to Salah, leave Trossard there as on the bench, and Breuer and Tierney in for Ben Johnson and Cristiano Ronaldo. It still leaves me 4.5 million in the bank, which then if I wanted to take a punt on a -8 and go big like Son for Trossard,
Don't do it.
I'm not going to. But I don't quite have enough of Antonio to Kane, for example. But I've got enough money to punt on another one for a -8 should I really want to.
Who's your players with singles this week?
It's a Cancelo.
Right, you don't want to bench him, do you?
Nope.
Yep.
Rudiger.
Yeah, that's borderline Palace away. Go on.
Jared Bowen. Not benching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gallagher.
Oh, it's a single fixture now. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
And Antonio.
Wow.
And Breuer.
So, I mean, them 5 is fine, man.
Exactly.
If you go with 6 doublers and then 5, it's fine. I'd probably, for this particular week, I'd probably be looking to upgrade on Gallagher and have him as a first sub or something. But I mean, the others, like even Rudiger at Palace, it's fine. Play him.
Yeah, I'm lined up with a 5-3-2 as it stands. 5-3-2. So
that's generally the way I'm sort of looking to maybe head with my team anyway. Possibly even 5-4-1. Sick of these forwards, isn't everybody? Right?
Yes.
So it's all well and good. Everyone's saying to me every week, "Oh, get rid of Dennis." Yeah, but who am I buying? Okay, great. I'd have some points from Morpay if I'd have done it this week. But then I'd be coming into this week probably regretting having Morpay. He's consistent enough, Morpay. He's definitely one of the better ones in and around that 6.5 price, although Brighton do make you tear your hair out quite a bit.
go on then. Your game week, sir.
Nah, it's shit, obviously. I'm on 41 myself at the moment. Thank you very much to Kurt Zuma deciding to, that's it, walk in front of the camera, mate.
That's all. Make sure my phone's on silent because you know it's going to ring. You know it's going to ring.
That makes a change.
Yeah.
Kurt Zuma getting the sicky bug. Was he just scared of the Leicester fans or what? Anyway, put the cat amongst the pigeons. Sorry about the pun there. And I got Issa Diop's 5 points off the bench.
We've all called a sickie. You know that one where you're going to school in the morning and Mum might tell me you always go to your why is tummy the go-to sickie? We've all called a sickie. So
Kurt Zuma probably does need sending back to school, in fairness. So 18 of my points from West Ham duo of Jared Bowen and Issa Diop, my only other returnee. With Trent Alexander-Arnold, I'm on 41 with Trossard, if he plays, Diogo Dalot, if he plays, and captain David De Gea to go. So a United clean sheet, and this will probably end with a green. A Brighton goal and a Bruno Fernandes haul, and I'm in trouble. But I'm about 85k, and I was anticipating a small red going into this week, knowing that I was gambling against Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo. But well set for 26, Suj. My intention is I'm going to have 9 doublers. My 2 single game week players would be Jared Bowen and Cancelo. Don't think it gets much better than that this week. My intended transfer is to now remove Issa Diop following his fantastic 5-pointer at Leicester. I had moments for a little while thinking, could this be a 12-pointer? I really should know better, right? Because as David Moyes tells us, right, Kurt Zuma's one of West Ham's better players. He's going to go for Tarkowski. I'm going to get him in for the double-double, which I don't think 26 is brilliant, by the way, Brighton and Tottenham. I'm not expecting much at all. But in 27... and this is worth remembering, Burnley's double is Palace and Leicester. All right, Palace can't defend from corners, and when Leicester can see the corner, you might as well give the opposition a penalty, mate, at the moment. So, I mean, Burnley's best aerial threat from set pieces is Tarkowski. I could even captain him in 27 just for the crack, mate. I don't think I would. I think I'd probably still go Cancelo with a single at Everton, most likely. But that's my planned transfer. That would leave me this week with Foster, Trent, Tierney, Cancelo, Salah, Bowen, Jota, King, Kane, Dennis, and Tarkowski added to that with, interestingly, and this is where I think the debate comes in, a bench of De Gea, Jacob Ramsey, Leandro Trossard, and Diogo Dalot. Mm-hmm. And that bench possibly scores more than 16 points. Probably only needs one good return in now. And there's some capable. we're talking about 4 players there with good single game week fixtures. Jacob Ramsey against Watford. Trossard at home to Burnley, although there's always a rotation doubt with Brighton offensive players particularly.
Well, he didn't play it though. He was on the bench, Trossard. He didn't start at the weekend.
Yes. He's obviously coming off the back of COVID.
Exactly, but we don't know how, like, is it a case of he's only still fit enough to do 15, 20 minutes or...
We have no idea.
So we'll know more tomorrow with the United game.
When he gets a 1-pointer for me.
Well, whether he starts or not. Like, say he was to start against United, then we know all good. He's clear. If he's on the bench again, then it'd make me think there's some lingering COVID hangover to be wary of with Trossard.
And obviously it would be double United defence sitting on the bench, and Leeds recorded an XG. I can't believe it. I think it's probably the most shocking statistic of the weekend. Leeds XG at Everton of 0.13.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
We'll talk about Leeds in a little bit, and we will do on Clash of the Correspondents tomorrow as well. But a clean sheet for United at Leeds, and that would get me past a general bench boost target without taking any hits, which this wouldn't be, of 16. You think Mo Salah outscores that?
No.
Okay, so here's the debate. Triple captain.
Oh, sorry.
Bench boost versus triple captain. What are you doing? Most people are doing 1 this week.
So, Mo Salah.
Yep.
Let's just break it down. I suppose the simple question is, because I don't think this is a huge debate that you can argue. So Mo Salah is going to play 2 games. I think he'll play both, so that's 4 points in appearance. I think Liverpool will get at least 1 clean sheet, so let's add another point in there. 5 points. A goal and assist over both games, you'd be happy with, so that's another 8. So you're up to 13, and I'd layer in 2 more bonus points across both games as being conservative. So Mo Salah for me, 15 points. If they offered me 15 points, I'd take it right now. As triple captain, triple to 45, I'd take it.
I think you'll be benched against Norwich. And I think you'll be the first player to score 6 goals in a Premier League game against Leeds. Obviously not. Imagine, oh my God. No, I think there's a strong possibility that Salah will be benched for one of the games. I think the debate of triple captain versus bench boost this week isn't as straightforward as just looking at your team and going, what scores more? It's not as straightforward as that. You have to layer in what's still to come. So the first question I'd ask people to consider is, if you're bench boosting this week, and it's absolutely fine to play this either way, by the way, as ever, play it your way. If you are bench boosting this week, what are your plans for triple captaincy? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Is an opportunity going to come again? If Liverpool do double in 29, and I want to talk about that in a set in terms of a possibility, if it's, say, Brighton away and Arsenal away, are you then going triple captaincy for Salah? That's not great fixtures, is it? Brighton away and Arsenal away. Not that with obviously Mo, we know as per the game at Old Trafford, he can go off in any game, right? But is that what you'd end up doing? Would you consider, if Chelsea have the double in 28 of, say, Burnley away and Arsenal at home, do you consider a Rudiger or a Reece James? Are you holding back in the hope of another Manchester United double? Are you holding back in the hope that it lands brilliantly for Harry Kane or Heung-min Son? The future triple captaincy options, in my opinion, there's not going to be better opportunity than this particular week. And I don't think there's going to be anything that stands out as absolutely amazing that would even stand out better than what it was for, say, Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes in the game week that's gone, actually. You have to flip that then the other way. If you're going to triple captain, what's your plan with bench boost? Now, for most people, and I'm going to go down the triple captaincy route, the answer for most people will be game week 36. We think it's going to be a big double. Probably estimate at the moment, probably 12 to 14 teams doubling in that game week. Most people, I think, as I said previously on last week's pod, last Monday, if the big teams keep winning in the FA Cup, it will naturally fall for most people without even possibly needing that wild card near the end where it will look absolutely great. You can't know that until after game week 30 if it's going to look like it lands nicely or not. So that's what you have to consider. Because I think most people, when you break it down this week, for the majority of people, unless you're sitting there with like your Brandon Williams on the bench and stuff like that, I've seen a lot of teams at the moment where if you score it like you've just done, Salah versus the bench, and remember, you're not counting all of Salah's points, you're just literally counting what's his score. Forget captaincy for a moment. What's his score in the week? Will that outscore the bench? For most people, the answer is the bench. But for a lot of those people, triple captain Salah is still the right answer.
You've got, okay, let's flip it differently. You've got 4 bench players there with single games. So that's 8 points. I'm going to say 3 returns worth 12 points. That's 20 points. Now, if you've got 4 bench players with double game weeks, that's 16 points just in appearance points. And then you've got 8 fixtures to pick up returns. Say you pick up another 3, you're looking at 30 points off your bench on a bench boost when your 4 bench players have a double game week. So for me, the bench boost later on, if I can maneuver a way to have 8 bench players with double game weeks, the percentages are that you're going to score more points off that by maybe 6-7 points as a minimum, and potentially way more depending on how it lands. That's why, I think a bench of 4 double game week players is far better than 4 good single game week players. The upside is much bigger. And the other part of this debate with triple captain this week is obviously a lot of people are saying Trent's a better choice than Salah. More likely to play both games. More consistent. His points returns in the last 10-12 weeks have been as good as...
Yeah, people will paint their narrative. Trent's returns better than Salah since the Old Trafford hat-trick.
Yeah.
So that will fit the narrative.
Of course.
But it's a sustained period of fixtures.
I triple captain Trent last year, or whatever. I don't remember what. All the years blur into one when you get to my age, peeps. But
he's younger than me.
Yeah, just. No, older than you.
Are you?
I'm older than you,
Are
bastard.
you? You don't look it.
I'm older than you.
Are you? Are you 40 now, aren't you?
I'm fucking 42 this year.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Lend me that oil of oule.
Oil of oule. Coconut water every day. I'm not averse to people that want to captain Trent over Salah. I don't think it's that clear cut. But Salah goes off. Salah's going to be monster, mate.
What's to say Trent's guaranteed to play twice? This is the one argument to put back.
Who else is going to play right back? James Milner.
Joe Gomez.
The only issue with Liverpool right now that they really they can't slip behind City any further. They're not going to want to at all. So they really need to win every single game.
Yeah. They also don't need Trent to pull a hamstring.
Nah, that's also true. But I think if you ask Liverpool, would you rather the league or the Champions League right now? I think they'd probably want to get the league back.
Oh, they want to sing 7 times or something like that. I don't think Liverpool fans will take either. I think Liverpool fans are realistic enough to know that at the moment it's obviously looking increasingly difficult to
harder
catch
to win
City.
the league, yeah.
But yes, of course, at the same point, you can't take your foot off it. I think the Norwich fixture, though, they would certainly feel that they could rotate the team and should be fine. I mean, we're now in a position with Liverpool, unlike, say, in January, where, with respect, they're playing, say, Minamino or Chamberlain as the right-sided forward. We're talking about them if they rest Salah, possibly still having a front three of Mane, Firmino and Jota. And you've got Luis Diaz added to the equation, who had a great debut against Leicester last Thursday. So now they've really stocked in the area where, of course, they can rotate. What about even Robertson? What's to say Shimikas won't play against Norwich at the weekend? I think most of the top players will play against Leeds. Because I still think, whatever people say about Leeds, if you take your eye off the ball against them and don't bring the same intensity to the game, that's why Everton played so well and did well at the weekend, was they brought the intensity of Leeds and more, right? They kind of Leeds, if you will. If you do not turn up with intensity against Leeds, you are in trouble. So I think Klopp will still want to pick his strongest team generally, bar maybe 1 or 2 tweaks against Leeds. Against Norwich on Saturday, we may see a bit of rotation. This is extremely difficult to call until we obviously get beyond the Inter Milan fixture this Wednesday. And there's that to factor in. It's not a case of 6-day break from Burnley to Norwich. I've got to go to Milan and play Inter on Wednesday, right? So once we're off the back of that, that'll possibly give us a bit more clues into Saturday. But my own take would be, I think if you were to captain a player in a single game day, to steal a term from Sky this season, you would pick not Liverpool at home to Norwich or Leeds, and they've literally got that in a double game week. Both sides are averaging conceded more than 2 goals per game. Worst defensive records in the league. It can't actually look much better than that. I do agree that I think there is an idea behind going Trent instead of Salah, and it's the only other player I would consider. Personally, I will be triple captain Mo Salah, and I think that's what 90% of the rest of the game is going to do as well. His effective ownership is going to be the highest I think you've ever seen, and by a distance. You're essentially, if you just captain Salah, you're going to be losing.
I know people think he's going to get dropped and is due a rest, no doubt about it. Do you know how many times he's been benched this season so far?
I'm going to say 1, Leicester.
Leicester, that's it.
Yeah.
He's not been benched, and even when he was benched against Leicester, he played half an hour.
But then, in fairness, one of my arguments on Saturday about Cancelo was that when Cancelo's been available this year for Manchester City, he's played all but 13 minutes.
Yeah,
He didn't play at Norwich at the weekend, and you go Norwich, right, is a common denominator in terms of theme there. So I don't think there's a right or wrong on the triple captaincy and bench boost. I think what we need to be aware of is most are going to go down the triple captaincy route. I do not think there are better triple captaincy, well, there's obviously not, but I do not think there are even necessarily good triple captaincy options to come in the future. There will certainly be another bench boost opportunity, but I do think those who have wildcarded very recently and set up to bench boost now, it's absolutely fine. Crack on. Don't get the FOMO about it. If that's your strategy and your plan, stick to it. But I think that doing the triple captaincy now and the bench boost later means winning out twice, I think.
I agree with you.
Salah could. I mean, he could. It's not beyond him to get 20 plus, is it?
Nope.
It's really not. If to be honest, if he started both games, you'd actually fancy him to get near that, I think.
Yeah, let's see how it plays out. Should we wrap up some of these games because it might affect some of the decisions that we want to make on different players for the double game week and who's going to be buying what?
We can. Can I just add a quick point on 28 and 29?
Yeah, let's do it.
Last Monday's podcast, season 5, episode 34, is still absolutely relevant. Minutes 15 to 55, where the two of us talk through strategy in quite a bit of detail. It's all completely relevant still, 7 days on. None of it's out of date. We thought Burnley-Leicester would be the only game added to game week 27. That's what's happened. So it's all still completely relevant. We kind of talk about triple captaincy and bench boost options on that podcast as well. I still think Chelsea and Arsenal will go into game week 28. And I know what many of the people will be saying is, James, will we get the announcement this week? I can't guarantee it. And I think there is a possibility that they may wait as late as next Friday. The reason for that being, you'll know at that point if Leicester have made it through to the last 16 in Europa Conference or not. And should they go out, obviously Chelsea-Leicester may go into game week 28 as well. Instead of Chelsea-Arsenal. The necessity really is for Chelsea to play a game in game week 28. There's a small possibility they could bring the Norwich fixture from game week 30 forward to game week 28, but that would literally be at 1 week's notice. I think that's the least likely. Chelsea and Arsenal and Chelsea-Leicester, if they wait, could both fit in onto the Thursday night, where I think Sky could show either game and it will only clash with the Europa League and Europa Conference League rather than clashing with the Champions League. In game week 26, Amazon are showing Arsenal versus Wolves. The 3 games on the Wednesday are not being televised. There is a relevance in this to Wolves' rearrangements at the moment. I spoke about game week 29 quite a bit last week as well, and I think it's worth saying at the moment that almost any fixture from game week 30 that's postponed because the FA Cup quarterfinals could be brought forward to the midweek beforehand. There are a couple of fixtures that certainly won't. Those are Liverpool versus Manchester United, and those are Norwich versus Chelsea, because
champion.
Correct. In that midweek, Manchester United play in the Champions League, so Chelsea. But in theory, just about any other fixture that needs arranging could drop in 29. There's also random ones like Wolves versus Watford. I can't tell you it won't drop into game week 28, and we might have a semi-big double like the game week 26 that's coming up. I can't guarantee that won't be the case. But we get into the point where I think ideally the Premier League would like to schedule the majority of fixtures into the midweeks of 33 and 36 where possible, rather than doing what they're doing next week with game week 26. I don't think that Arsenal and Liverpool will go into game week 29, but I want to stress that it can. And I know there's certain people, Lego Mane, for example, who's really good with his strategy ideas. He thinks it is likely to go into game week 29, and I absolutely acknowledge that. I think that it won't because the necessity is not as big as it is for Chelsea in 28. In the example that Chelsea-Liverpool was the FA Cup final, for example, and they both made the Champions League semi-finals, Chelsea would have 5 fixtures to rearrange as it stands. Liverpool 4. The need to do it is not as big. If Chelsea were to not arrange a fixture in 28 and that scenario to happen, it's really, really bad. In that scenario for Liverpool, it would probably end up having to play either 3 times in 36. Don't get excited, triple captaincy. That's like a 1% chance. Or more likely have to play twice in game week 37, which would mean moving their FA Cup final perhaps to Tuesday, and then they have to play Thursday as well. In Chelsea's situation, it would be really bad. So I think Chelsea have got to play in 28, ideally. Again, Premier League's barking up the wrong tree if they don't schedule the game. For Liverpool, the need is not as great as it is for Chelsea. The only Liverpool fixture that could go into 29 is the Arsenal game, because obviously United play in the Champions League, so they can't bring that forward into 29, and you can't just pull the Aston Villa fixture for Liverpool in 33 out on the possibility that Liverpool may make the FA Cup semi-final. So the only additional fixture that Liverpool could have in 29 is Arsenal. That does mean we could have an Arsenal scenario of double 26, blank 27, double 28, double 29. There is a small possibility that that could happen. I don't think it will happen because as it stands, BT have the rights for Aston Villa versus Arsenal on the 12:30 on the Saturday, meaning the game can't take place on the Thursday beforehand. BT are not going to move that Villa-Arsenal fixture. So Arsenal-Liverpool would have to go on the same night as a Champions League night. And I think if that happens, it's not getting shown on TV. And I don't think Sky want to let it go. So that's why I think it won't happen. Whereas Chelsea v Arsenal, or in the unlikely event Leicester go out in Europe, Chelsea v Leicester, if they wait long enough, can be played on the Thursday before game week 29, and therefore would give those teams a double win 28. So, but I want you to be aware that Liverpool and Arsenal at the Emirates could be added to 29. A lot of people think it will be. I personally don't.
Okay. Should we talk about some of these games?
Yeah.
Right, Old Trafford. Manchester United 1. Southampton 1.
You're going to do that for all 10 games?
I might try the old James Alexander-Gordon impression.
Please don't. Doesn't sound good.
No.
Southampton, briefly. I could eulogise about them again, but I think I said enough on Friday's podcast about how well they played.
Yeah, I predicted them to win. Oh,
you did.
Far off.
You weren't far off. They certainly had some great counter-attacking opportunities, particularly in that second half. I do think Armstrong, Elianusi are really worth keeping an eye on in the near future. I think Breuer is going to become extremely popular once we get beyond this game week. And like yourself, Suj, I don't mind if people want to buy him this week, single fixture at home to Everton, and just say, that's where I'm going. I'm going to get it done. It might be the solution for those who've gone early on Weghorst, for example.
Yeah.
I know a few people would have wildcarded this week and gone Weghorst and benched him ahead of the double-double. So if he's ruled out for a while, rather than Jay Rodriguez, it might just be Breuer. Southampton at home, then Norwich at home. Decent fixtures. Could even possibly cover you off up to game week 30 if they lose to West Ham in the FA Cup. United. Well, the game week's not decided till what happens, obviously, tomorrow night against Brighton. Of course,
yeah.
From an FPL perspective. But it is repeating of the same mistakes. The only thing that's changed over the last week is, as I already said, they are at least creating proper chances now, which is interesting. But looking ahead, I mean, I don't think Ronaldo starts at Leeds. I think that's important to say. For those who've got him, I think he's a sell. I think he's a hard sell. Bruno Fernandes less so. And again, I refer to what I said on Friday about midfield runners against Leeds. There is a far stronger case to keep Bruno Fernandes for game week 27. I suspect in most cases, the majority of people, and this won't be everyone, the majority of people who are sitting there with Bruno Fernandes right now probably are moving to Mo Salah, and that's fine. You should obviously still crack on and do that. If you are still sitting there or you are already sitting there with Salah and Fernandes, I don't think Fernandes is necessarily a bomb out. So I think, for example, there'll be a lot of people thinking Fernandes to Son. I can see that at the moment. Double for Tottenham. But I think Bruno at Leeds at the weekend could be really interesting. Remember, he did score a hat-trick against them, obviously, in game week 1 as well. Whether Leeds will alter their ideas because of that particular fixture, I'm never convinced that Leeds alter for anybody, actually. So it could be a good game for Bruno. I think because of the intensity of the game, I think Cavani will play up front. And I think Cristiano Ronaldo owners should note that. I think, therefore, by default, a lot of Ronaldo owners will end up going to Harry Kane. I think for defensive owners, you can either, particularly in De Gea's case, you can either obviously play or not play. What would you, if you had De Gea and Sanchez, and there'll be a few that probably do following this, what do you do?
Sanchez. Brighton at home to Burnley, I fancy, especially if Weghorst is out, I fancy Brighton at home to Burnley.
If I was in that situation, I think with De Gea and Sanchez, I think I would sell De Gea for Ramsdale.
You'd sell him, yeah?
Yeah. Even potentially for it. I mean, imagine if that does transpire that Arsenal had double, then particularly I think Aaron Ramsdale more than anyone would become extremely popular extremely quickly. Sanchez would still give you cover in 27. They have Aston Villa at home, which is fine. Villa blanked at Newcastle yesterday, so it's not like that. It can't be a clean sheet. So I think if I was sitting there with De Gea and Sanchez, I'd be strongly considering moving to Ramsdale this week. It's a good defensive double for Arsenal with Brentford at home and Wolves at home. It'd be interesting to see what Adam Pritchard at 352 says on that. On a Clash of Correspondents that I'm not looking forward to recording for you for Thursday, as Arsenal just beat Wolves and Wolves just beat Tottenham. Yay, I timed that one well, didn't I? I might scrap it and do another one instead. I won't, I promise. I think United assets, though, are looking... Generally, they're going to be looking towards the bin. It's worth noting as well, of course, if you're not free hitting...
De Gea, I think, is still all right.
Of course he is.
De Gea can tick along.
Like, I've got De Gea and Foster. I'm just going to play Foster this week. I'm going to play De Gea in 27.
Yeah.
And then judge it from there onwards. It might be that I move De Gea to Ramsdale in 20. I think if Arsenal were to have double 28-29, and again, I don't think that will happen, and it's possible they might not double in either. Then I would take for a hit De Gea to move to Ramsdale. It would feel
same price.
It would feel justifiable with De Gea going to Man City as well from the timing in game week 28 specifically.
Agreed. Yeah, same price now, both of them, 5.1. So whilst a few months ago you might have made a bit of money on that as well, that isn't there to be made. But I'm going to have Kieran Tierney, so I'm not sure what I feel about double Arsenal defence. I don't mind it, to be fair. It doesn't make, like in the old days, I would have looked at it and thought, ugh, but I don't mind it.
I spoke about it on Friday and I said we need to start treating Arsenal defensively really seriously. I'm still sitting there with Tierney. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with going double Arsenal defensively at the moment. I'd rather do that than buy one of the defensive players at the moment from Arsenal. I think have scored one goal in the league this year. That was scored by a defender, Gabriel. Gabriel and Ben White obviously will come back. Well, they actually won't come back to Arsenal because they didn't bloody play, did they? So they can fit into the conversation now. Tierney, I think, is the best one.
Oh, by far. Gabriel's not far behind. I mean, he scored more points this year, but points per game.
And White's obviously budget, right? And he's definitely going to play.
Yeah.
They're not going to rotate him out. Remember, Arsenal obviously out of all the cup competitions. So I think Arsenal just keep picking their strongest team. Martinelli's obviously out of the first game. I think that still makes kind of Smith Rowe and Odegaard quite risky. I think Saka I'd expect to play twice. I see a few people talking about Lacazette. I really don't like that. It's too... The forwards are shit at 6.5. You want to pay 8.5 for a shit forward instead. It doesn't mean he can't go off. Of course, and he's the sort of player who strikes me as probably could get a couple of goals against Brentford at the weekend, but I don't think I'd want that sitting in my team for very long. I had him for a brief period over Christmas, and that was to target the Leeds-Norwich games that they had. That again, targeting Leeds and Norwich, and moved him immediately on from that. And I think you'd possibly want to do similar. But because of, say, game week 30 and stuff, you may end up holding on to Lacazette for a while if you go that way. And because of his price, it may block you some other stuff. I mean, it's reasonable if that's going to be your most expensive forward, say you're Breuer, Maupay, Lacazette, for example. I think that's okay.
I think, yeah, you're right.
I certainly wouldn't want Lacazette and Kane sitting in there, for example.
No. But then moving on to Brentford 0, Palace 0. I would rather, with Palace, Palace tough fixture is Chelsea, but that's the home game. And then they are away at Watford. There's options there. Edouard or whoever you choose, but Edouard being the standout. You'd rather buy Edouard at his price than Lacazette at his price, even with the fixtures that they have in the double game week. Brentford 0, Palace 0. David Raya back in goal and Brentford keep a clean sheet, although I can't say I watched the highlights or much of this game.
I think I was asked on my deadline stream on Saturday to name cheap assets from a team that could carry you through from the week just gone all the way up to game week 30, and I actually named Brentford. And I think for those who are without free hit chips, I think Brentford are really interesting at the moment. Not necessarily for this week to buy, but their fixtures 27 to 29 are really nice. We know they're going to play against Leicester in 30. I think if you were even in a position looking for an enabler this week to allow you to get to Salah, say you're short the money, I think Brentford defenders could be considered. You can obviously bench them this week with the single fixture of Arsenal away. Pinnock, Henry, they're cheap enough that they might come in really useful for you, particularly 27 and 30. We've got Newcastle at home in 27. And they've got, I want to say, Norwich and Burnley, I think, afterwards. 28, they've got Norwich away. 29, they've got Burnley at home. And then Leicester away 30. So they've got a good few fixtures. And I think defensively they can be considered. It's worth noting with Brentford, they're the only team left who, unless they have COVID or weather postponements, will definitely play in every game week and definitely can't have a double. But then it means they're always going to play at some point. Their fixtures in 33, 36 and 37 are completely locked in. I think they've got fixtures in all of them against teams that are already out the FA Cup. So I think defensively they can be considered. I think that does bring Raya into the conversation possibly, but in most people's cases they're not going to be buying Brentford this week. They might be buying Palace. To repeat what obviously Suj has already pointed out, Conor Gallagher ineligible against Chelsea, so can only play the Watford fixture. He will play the Watford fixture.
It's enough that he could pop off in that, you know.
It's still a good single game week fixture. I think the problem is Edouard and Elise are the two really interesting ones. You've had Edouard benched against Norwich. Now you've had Elise benched against Brentford. Now, what's to say it's not going to be the same for the double coming up? Yeah. And it might be that they play against Chelsea and get benched against Watford. And if it was to go that way, you'd want it the other way around, wouldn't you? Bench against Chelsea, play against Watford. It's probably more likely, in Elise's case, probably more likely to be benched against Chelsea. But then I think that would concern you if he got benched 2 games in a row. Does he even get back in for Watford? Vieira likes to play Jordan Ayew in certain fixtures, ironically often away from home, and they are performing better at home than away this season. They're capable of giving Chelsea some problems this week, but I think because of what's happened with Edouard and Elise, it's probably really put people off.
I'm not adding any Palace assets. I
can't remember as well at this point. Anyone who hasn't got Salah is probably prioritising that. So where are you finding the time to hit in guys like Elise and Edouard when you've got no certainty that they're going to play twice and it might just be a single fixture against Chelsea? I don't think you do. I think those who've got, you hold, you play, you keep your fingers crossed. But I think the moment of buying actually is probably gone.
You don't think if Weghorst is ruled out that Edouard's a decent replacement for Weghorst owners?
No, I'd go Dennis or King.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't.
No. Just get Breuer if you don't own Breuer as a single game week. I mean, Edouard with a double versus Breuer with a single. Breuer's just a longer term hold, isn't he, really?
I think at this moment I would go Breuer rather than Edouard, yeah. So I wouldn't have any confidence that Edouard plays twice anyway. And Breuer's got one great fixture. And I just think he is playing way too good at the moment to be left out. There might be a little bit of concern that they've got West Ham in the Cup and because they've got themselves in a really good league fixture, league position, that they might prioritise the Cup game against West Ham. But I don't think so. I think Breuer. When does Southampton play Chelsea? That's quite important, actually. So you could just have a little look and see if you can find that for us. It's not for a while.
Is it a home fixture or away fixture from memory?
You go and look at the one of the teams. Just grab up Chelsea's fixtures or something.
Okay.
If you look week by week, it's going to take you forever. I feel like it's not for a while.
Southampton played Chelsea at home in game week 32, sir.
Okay, so that's not for a little while.
No, quite a way away. Everton 3, Leeds 0. Possibly one of the surprise results over the weekend. I wouldn't say necessarily Everton winning being a surprise result, but the manner of the victory and the margin of the victory definitely was.
Oh, no, I just think Everton winning was a surprise.
I mean, they were the mustard. Coleman on the score sheet.
Oh, man. Get your coat and leave.
Ketchup's coming soon.
Kenny credit it.
A lot of people might have had Michael Keane lingering around from a few weeks ago. I saw a few had him. They had a double previously, didn't they?
Probably had him benched.
Yeah.
He's probably come on for Cancelo. I've seen that in a few cases.
Yeah, I mean, this is a funny one because let's take Newcastle as a comparison, not the fixture, the team who have won as well at the weekend. I suddenly am like, okay, I don't mind now looking at Newcastle for a couple of assets because there's a few interesting ones in there in Trippier and St. Maximin and so on. I still don't feel that way about Everton despite the victory. You know, despite the fact that they've won 2 home games now, including the FA Cup game. I still don't feel like I want any of their assets necessarily. And Leeds, I don't own any anyway, and I'm not about to own any anyway. So, well done to Everton, giving themselves a little bit of a buffer room from the bottom 4, who I think now it's going to be one of the 3 of those 4 going down. But it doesn't make me want to, from an FPL point of view, go back for any more.
There is one outstanding Everton asset to be considered at the moment, and it's Anthony Gordon. It's 4.5 million midfielder.
He's cheap.
He's now played the majority of Everton's games since game week 11, not starting in game weeks 14, 16 and 23. He is therefore a little bit of in fact, he's more than a little bit of a rotation risk. But he offers offensive potential. I think he's beginning to position himself as a really good 5th midfielder choice, bearing in mind a lot of people are now of the thinking of starting Jacob Ramsey regularly. Why not have 2 in there at that price? Now the problem is if you go with, this is where it gets complicated, if you go with say Ramsey and Gordon in a setup, say you're wildcarding now for example, and that's reasonable, of course that allows you a midfield quite straightforward of, let's just say, Bowen, Salah, Son,
Jota,
for example.
Rashford. There's loads.
Well, you can go that way, and then you could have, say, Robertson and Trent and Cancelo at the back. You're still going to struggle to spend the money. She ain't getting no premium forwards.
Exactly.
Unless you maybe went Kane at the moment. So I don't think there's the necessity for people to go that way. I think Ramsey is still a better choice than Gordon because I think Ramsey is locked in Villa's best team at the moment, whereas in Everton's case, you've got Damari Gray could be back as early as this week. You've still got Andros Townsend. You've got, depending on if they go back to a 3 at the back, you're only playing the first choice 3 would probably be Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Gray, which then means unless Gordon's going to play wing back, which I don't think he would, then he wouldn't be in Everton's first choice team. But he's the one that's potentially interesting at the moment. Wouldn't consider anything else from Everton. I must credit Frank Lampard. Leeds fans, cover your ears because I know you won't like that. But we spoke about if they lined up against Leeds the same way that they did against Newcastle, they would get battered. And they changed and they went to quite, to be honest, a rigid 4-4-2 and played John Joe Kenny at left back. And he did really well. When they've done that before under Benitez, they played Coleman at left back and Kenny at right back. But they obviously felt he could go and be aggressive against Rafinha. And that's what he did to the extent that Bielsa took Rafinha off at half-time. We'll come back to that. Alex Iwobi played wide for Everton. Possibly one of his best games for Everton, actually. Because the one thing Iwobi does do is he gives you the work rate. He can press off the ball and stuff. Played quite well. Don't think he stays in the team longer term. And they played Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin through the middle. And whatever state they've been, we've said this for a long time, if they get Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin on the pitch, there's goals in the team. Ironically, they've scored 3 here and neither have scored, although Richarlison's obviously had the effort which flicks off Gordon before going in. Doesn't mean Everton are out of the woods of trouble at all, but it was a massive victory. Will certainly give them confidence. The home games are going to be absolutely critical for them at the moment, because I still don't believe they're in the right psyche mind to be able to go and get victories away from home at the moment. Like if I offered Everton fans a point at Southampton at the weekend, I think they would all gladly take that, particularly with what you're seeing from Southampton recently as well. They're not out of trouble, but it was a big win. They couldn't afford to lose it. Leeds, talk about quite a bit on Clash of the Correspondents with Andy Martin tomorrow. And I'm really interested to get his take on Rafinha, because that's bizarre that Bielsa took him off 2-0 down. Absolutely bizarre. I didn't watch the game, but the people who did have said, okay, he didn't play well, but you wouldn't take him off. He's the one world-class player they've got. Even if you thought, for whatever reason, that perhaps the duel with Kenny wasn't going well for him, do something different. Put him at the 10 position. Put him on the left. It's not like he's never played on the left before. Make them think about what they're doing. Do you want to swap Coleman and Kenny then, for example? Pull him around the pitch. I think the simple solution would have been go and put Rafinha in the 10 position for a little bit. Push Bielsa spoke about wanting Dan James to go and play on the right. Fine. Push Rodrigo into the 9 position and put Rafinha at 10. It was strange. Really strange that he took him off. For the owners who've got, I would not doubt that he will start both games. The games are too big. Manchester United Sunday, Liverpool on Wednesday. I think he's probably not a priority for people this week. They do have good fixtures after 26 as well. I wouldn't rule Rafinha out as a shout for this week. I'd look at what happened at the weekend as a complete one-off. I'm absolutely If Bielsa doesn't start Rafinha against Manchester United on Sunday, which is Leeds' biggest game, and Leeds get beat, it'll be the first time people are going, what are you doing? Whereas they kind of unreservedly trust him in terms of what they watch is great to watch. That obviously wasn't good for him at the weekend. But if he doesn't pick Rafinha against United, it's bizarre. I'm fairly certain that Rafinha will play. It could be that he's obviously played for Brazil. There was some speculation that he came back with a bit of a niggle. It might be that he was carrying a knock, and that's the real reason. But I think it would have been sensible to say that, rather than him just come out and say through the interpreter.
Interpreter.
Thanks, Suj. God, I like to add tours onto a lot of things. It would have made sense to just say he's got a knock. If that's why he took him off, everyone goes, okay, fine. But to just say, I want to play Dan James out there, that's weird.
Watford 0, Brighton 2, as expected in every which way. This is probably one of the least surprising results of the weekend for me, and the comfort of Brighton's victory as well.
So the right answer was, we spoke a lot about getting the defensive players. The right answer was any of them. Obviously, Webster and Lampsey have returned particularly well. I think the switch to the back three means that there's more game time likely for Joel Veltman. Is good news for all of them. I'm intrigued to see if Lamptey plays again at Manchester United tomorrow night. Those who've got obviously want him to play again, but I think the main was I was concerned it'd be the other way. Wouldn't play Watford, would play Manchester United. You've got the return. If you went for a Brighton defensive player, you're in. Even Cucurella could have scored on that as well. Webster with the budget return as well was absolutely beautiful. Sam FPL Seagull, our Brighton correspondent, described Brighton's performance as faultless. Was so impressed. I know he was at the game. He went to Vicarage Road as well. He also described Watford as useless. And I don't think even our Watford followers will particularly disagree with that. One shot on target. All their lively moments in the game looked like they ironically did come from Emmanuel Dennis. He did play Dennis and King through the middle again. He has to change that in terms of... I think he's gone in, and I understand Hodgson's principal idea here is they've been so bad defensively, shore that up, the two banks of four. But he's got to take a chance in terms of getting Ismail Sarr in that team somewhere. And if he doesn't trust Sarr to play on the right wing, play Josh King on the right wing, just give you a little bit more attacking thrust. They've got good attacking players. They're probably not going to go hell for leather with Villa away on Saturday as well. They might decide to go for it a bit more in the Palace fixture next Wednesday, which could also be good for Palace offensive assets. I wouldn't rule them out, but if they don't change something, it's already swung with Watford, where it's gone from, now they can see too many goals, to they've been scoring goals fine this season, right? Now it's gone the other way, and you've gone, okay, you've firmed it up a little bit, but are you going to score goals
enough
now?
To stay up?
Correct. It might be that it swung too far the other way. And 1-pointers are not good enough. They are in circumstances like Villa away at the weekend. If Watford get a point out of that, that's great. But then Palace at home next week is the sort of fixture you've got to be targeting to win. Palace will be doing the same though, thinking it's Watford away, we'll be targeting a win. I would not be adding any Watford players. If you don't own this week, ignore the Dennis and King.
Yeah, Dennis will be gone
soon.
I can't wait.
I think Ben Foster's very reasonable to get though.
That's because he's so cheap.
Very reasonable. He's kind of the ideal second choice keeper at the moment. Tim Krul's nearing a return for Norwich as well, and presumably he'll get the shirt back from Angus Gunn. Foster's definitely got favouritism at Watford. Was he 4.1? It's absolutely fine as a backup keeper. And yes, I will start all three of the Watford guys this week. I'm not going to move it to anything. So I look at the other forwards available this week and go, what am I
moving to?
For a -4, what am I moving to? Am I moving to Edouard?
No.
I'm not. I'll stick with it. And I may keep one of them for 27. I'm definitely, as long as Breuer's fit, I'm 100% buying Breuer in 27. If I have to -12 to get Breuer for one of them in 27, I will. I'm getting him in.
Norwich 0, City 4. Again, routine as you'd expect for Manchester City. Raheem Sterling popping up with a hat-trick, so he'll obviously capture the headlines. 10 goals, 3 assists now for him this season, although 3 of those goals were in this game. But I suppose the story is that they rested all the big boys for the fixture next week. Remind me, who are they playing?
Sporting Lisbon tomorrow night. What's the joke?
Spurs, isn't it, next in the league?
No, they've got Sporting Lisbon tomorrow night.
Yeah. We'll see. They probably can play the B team for that as well and keep themselves within the tie. Most will have had Cancelo or Laporte and got nothing from him and Kevin De Bruyne. If you have those that are stuck with Foden, okay, you've picked up a return, and Diaz has done okay as well. This is the problem with City, though, isn't it? I've still got just Cancelo there. The only one that I would add to my cohort there would be Laporte, and I'm happy that he had a game off because now he'll probably play a few in a row. And that's about it with City. Right? They're going to keep winning games. They're going to keep sharing the returns around. Laporte, Cancelo. I'm not going to go in for an attacker.
280 managers in the top 10k had Cancelo, Laporte and Kevin De Bruyne.
I had 2 of the bastards in Sky, so...
thank you to FPL Tom Jones. You know any Tom Jones numbers? You're older than me, so you'll remember better.
Oh, is it? No. I mean, yeah.
Thank you, FPL Tom Jones.
My wife's favourite song is Singing at Me Sex Bomb, I'm sure, yeah.
That statistic, which he obviously nicked off the live FPL net, which I could have nicked myself. Do not sell your Manchester City players this week. It's really, really straightforward. The big boys will play. It's worth remembering that it's a 4-day gap from Sporting Lisbon to Tottenham on Saturday evening. Manchester City do not have a midweek fixture next week. So you're good as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing to fret about. Whatever you've got City, you play it this week. There are obviously some who are going to be moving, I guess, De Bruyne to Salah, which if that's the way you've set up, then yeah, fine. I accept it. You've got to make that move. But generally don't bench your City players this week. I wouldn't. There's no way I would bench, for example, Cancelo over Dennis or King this week. No way. I'd play Cancelo. I'd rather bench one of them two perhaps up front. So be very conscious about what you're doing. Do not look at the name of Tottenham and be worried about Manchester City. Also, do not be worried about the historical... people will bring, Tottenham have a good record against Man City. Yeah, not at the fucking Etihad, we don't. At home games, yeah, not at the Etihad. Tottenham are a mess at the moment. I want to highlight, obviously, Sterling will get the headlines from the weekend. But I think Mahrez is really interesting at the moment. 8.7, owned by next to nobody. He will be in a few teams, and if you've got him, I'd hold on to him. Honestly, if you're sitting there right now and you're thinking you want to go Riyad Mahrez to Heung-min Son this week, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I'd just keep Riyad Mahrez. Like, if you've set that up for whatever reason. Similarly, if you're thinking of going Sterling to Son, I wouldn't. I would keep these City boys. And yes, understand there is a little bit of fan negativity and bias coming off me at the moment. But if Tottenham show the same lethargy...
Lethargy.
Fucking hell, right? You'd think I went to school, wouldn't you? Maybe I didn't know. I just didn't listen much. Thanks, mate.
Lethargy, yeah.
Then Spurs will get absolutely rinsed on Saturday. I think City will beat us 3 or 4-0, to be very honest with you. I think Mahrez is interesting because we think, and it's unconfirmed, Grealish might be out for a month. And Jesus is not fit at the moment either. And actually, if you look at their bench at the weekend in terms of the offensive options, it's a little bit... It doesn't mean they can't do something like play Gundogan at false 9 and
Jesus on the right.
Forwards.
He's played right wing a bit.
But I think, but at the moment, he's not fit.
Right.
He's got muscle niggles. I don't know what that means. Like, he could be back fit for Saturday, for example. But I think Mahrez, while Jesus is out, Mahrez is particularly interesting, actually. Anyway, don't sell your City players this week. It's Everton afterwards as well. Don't overlook the fact that City have got a couple of good single game week fixtures to come. Honestly, don't overlook it.
Burnley 0, Liverpool 1. The massively owned Fabinho 0.9%.
Just add on Norwich that they played all right for 20 minutes or so on Saturday. Like, Hanley hit the post, they played okay. In the end, they got battered. They really missed Adam Eder at the weekend. You never judge a team's performance against City. No, I thought Rashica looked quite lively at certain points of the game as well. They did okay for a period, but after the first went in, it fell a bit flat for them.
Yeah. Burnley 0, Liverpool 1. Like I say, Sean Dyche and Kloppy are best mates now, apparently. But Fabinho massively owned. Jordan Henderson massively owned. It was the big boys that returned.
Fabinho's got like 5 in 7 or something, isn't it?
Is he?
I think so, yeah.
All comps?
Yeah, I think all comps, yeah.
Fine. Because he's got 4 league goals.
And they're all quite recent.
3 in the last 4.
There you go, mate. And what price is he?
Not worth it.
Fuck Mo Salah. Get Fabinho.
Jordan Henderson. I mean, look, the defensive guys returned as well in Trent and what have you. Even if they don't get attacking returns, 2 in 3, you're going to pick up a clean sheet or at least 1 in 2 from these guys. Yeah.
Please don't waste the Liverpool spot on Fabinho. please don't do that. I seen quite a bit of the game back last night. They had some scary moments in the first half, Liverpool. Don't think they could have overly complained if Burnley had gone in front, actually. They gave Liverpool some issues. I think the high line they play is unlikely to give them too many problems in the double game week they come, unless Daniel James is the one, I guess, in terms of his in-behind running, could give them some issues. He will make the runs in behind. Whether he can time it properly, I'm not convinced. Norwich probably won't give Liverpool in behind over the top issues. But then I wouldn't have expected Burnley to, and they had some interesting breakaways, particularly that one from a corner where Weghorst ended up dinking it over Alisson. He dinked it so badly, Trent nearly smashed it in the net for an own goal. I think there's nothing overly to debate with Liverpool. You're sitting there with 3 already, or you're sitting there with 2 and probably about to buy Mo Salah, and that's it. I wouldn't go rushing to swap Jota and Robertson, for example, this week. Doesn't make sense to me. I generally think Tsimikas might play one of the games, for example. So I wouldn't rush to spread that about. I think Trent is the only real captaincy alternative to Mo Salah. I wouldn't consider going Jota or Mane as an alter. If you want to fight against Mo Salah, I would only go for Trent.
I agree with you on that, yeah.
For Burnley, double.
What's happened to Weghorst then?
Don't know yet. Prognosis unknown. But he obviously went off injured yesterday and ended up bringing Ashley Barnes on, who's not fit at all yet. And Sean Dyche has said that. He also said Maxwell Cornet is basically not, in his own words, quote, he's not Premier League fit yet. If you want to go for a Burnley player, it's double of Brighton away, Tottenham at home, and then Palace away, Leicester at home. Those 4 fixtures should not be feared. The most difficult fixture they've got there is probably the first one, Brighton away. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is any way that Burnley don't keep a clean sheet in the next 2 weeks, despite the fact they are 1 win in 20 or whatever. I don't know if they'll get the goal scoring returns. I think if you're looking to move Dennis or King to a Burnley forward, you're potentially moving from one problem to the next. Do you want to waste a midfield spot at the moment on Maxwell Cornet? Charlie Taylor is nearly available, at some point he probably will regain the spot from Eric Peters. It's really unknown on the Connor Roberts, Matt Lowton situation. I think we can say Roberts has got favouritism, but as I said, I think on Friday's pod, now that the Leicester fixture's been added to 27, they will end up playing Tottenham Wednesday, Palace Saturday, Leicester Tuesday. So there's every chance. Like, if you're looking for a guarantee that Roberts is going to play all them games, can't give it to you. Pope, me, Tarkowski. Don't overthink it if you want to go into them. And I think if you can pay the extra for Tarkowski over me, you should, because he is the bigger threat from set pieces, and particularly for that 27 fixture, Palace and Leicester are two teams who have massive issues with defending set pieces. I might even captain Tarkowski in 27. It's not impossible. I'll get him in this week as long as I don't have any further issues. He'll come in for Diop. I'll play him this week. I don't intend to do anything more than that.
Newcastle 1, Villa 0 at St James's Park. Newcastle 3 wins on the bounce. I caught the last 30 minutes or so as I was settling into my seat for the 4:30 kickoff, and it felt like a really good atmosphere at St James's Park, as you would expect, but backed with a more solid, decent performance all of a sudden now. I think that the mood there is that the transfer window, they didn't buy big, but they bought the right players to get them out of the relegation battle with Trippier, and Dan Burn had a good game. Chris Wood had a decent game. Although at the end there, obviously Newcastle being 1-0 up was a case of Villa were piling on the pressure and then Newcastle were breaking and still causing problems, because with St Maximin, you have a player that on the counter
was fire again, wasn't
possibly one of the most devastating players, because it's what Grealish used to do so well for Villa, is you get given the ball, he'll break away and win a foul, job done, and then the pressure's eased again.
Saint Maximin does it with
so good.
Obscene speed.
Yeah, the pace is just, oh my God, frightening. Really good here. I think Newcastle, there's only probably one or two that I'm interested from an FPL point of view, and I'm not really that interested yet. But St Maximin being one, Tripp's injured at the moment, but we'll know more soon, possibly being another. 2 goals in 2 is going to capture a lot of people's attention. And then Villa, on the other hand, we'll talk about as well, because people that are looking at I was looking at Coutinho and Dini in the last 2 weeks, bought neither, and sitting here feeling a bit smug about the luck that I've had, let's say.
Be interesting. Someone can study this for me, because I can't be bothered to do it. But someone have a look and look at hauls against Leeds this season, and then see how excited people got about people, and then they didn't do a lot afterwards. Mm-hmm. It's probably a little bit of a correlation going right back to Bruno Fernandes in game week 1, actually. I think there was a little bit of that with Villa. Coutinho is a great option. I think Buendia's decent as well. I think Ramsey, obviously, is an amazing price and needs to be an asset that we can consider starting most weeks. At least I didn't lose this week, because he got booked, didn't he? So I was right to leave him out for Dennis and King. See? Up here for dancing. Down there for thinking. I think it's interesting, just looking at Villa's results, and it won't feel like this, but since they won at Norwich in game week 17, they played Chelsea, Brentford, Manchester United, Everton, Leeds, Newcastle. I'd say that's quite a normal kind of run of 6 fixtures or so. They lost to Chelsea, lost to Brentford, they drew to Manchester United and were 2-0 down. They won at Everton, they drew with Leeds, lost at Newcastle. 5 points from 6, Suj.
Not great.
No, but it doesn't. I don't know why it doesn't feel like that.
I suppose the Leeds game being crash bang wallop and a lot of goals in it maybe disguises that. Teams, when they're not picking up points but scoring a lot of goals, you forgive.
Maybe because we had 2 weeks to remember that they'd won at Everton. I don't know.
Perhaps.
But yeah, Aston Villa in any kind of run of 6 games shouldn't be taking 5 points from 6 games or so. I don't know if there's I didn't see a lot of the games. Obviously, I was at Tottenham, but I heard that even Steven Gerrard's mannerisms were looking quite frustrated during the game at what he was seeing. So I think what you might get with the system that they've got with Coutinho and Buendia at the moment is they might have some games where it really clicks at Villa Park. like Watford at home at the weekend is the sort of game they could go and win 3-0, 4-1, something like that. But I feel like at the moment, away from home, they might be grinding stuff out quite a bit, possibly to try and get results. It's interesting looking at positional maps from that game yesterday. Dean and Cash, so high. I heard Matt Cash didn't play well, actually. But their positioning was so high. It was basically as high as Ollie Watkins during the game. So they really do that. And this is kind of, to go back to my point prior to the Leeds game about Ramsey saying that actually he is playing a deeper role. You're not going to be able to have the ability to break through into empty space in every game like you can do against Leeds United. So I don't suppose anybody's buying Villa assets this week with Watford at home, but it's a great fixture. Like if someone said, I'm going to start Jacob Ramsey this week, I wouldn't have an issue with that. I think Ollie Watkins, I'd prefer, even though he's not in the best moment, I'd arguably prefer Watkins over the two Watford players this week. Because I'd think Villa will beat Watford comfortably on Saturday, to be honest. So they're just not in a good moment, but there are still so many different brilliant FPL assets at Villa. There are absolutely loads. Newcastle, as you said, 3 wins on the bounce. I think all Newcastle fans right now will feel like they're going to stay up. I think most of us would agree that they're going to stay up from here on in. I think there are some concerns still. I think Wood doesn't look to me at the moment like he's going to score goals, and we think Wilson's going to be out till sort of late April or so. So that does put a burden on St. Maximin or Trippier to deliver from set pieces and the like. Trippier, interestingly, prognosis not confirmed, but he went to the hospital after the game yesterday to get an X-ray on a foot. It is suspected that his foot might be broken. If that's the case, he's obviously not going to play for a significant period of time. And that might just make Javier Manquillo, who played left back yesterday, at 3.9, really interesting for an upcoming period. He'll be in, for those 3 hitting in game week 27, he should probably be in all your teams, even if you're going to bench him. You can have him at 3. You could have him and Brandon Williams as your 2 defensive subs at 3.9 for 3 hitters in game week 27. And then you can power into Fernandes, Ronaldo, Kane, Son. You probably force all of it in if that's what you want to do in game week 27 for 3 hitters. So I think Manquillo is really interesting. For those not bench boosting this week, he might be that he's the one that enables you. Say you're sitting there with Fernandes and you were planning to go to Salah and you've let the price rises go because Salah's gone up to 13 million now from 12.8 at deadline on Friday. And I'm sure it will be 13.1 by the time the weekend comes round as well. It might be that Manquillo offers you the facility to now make the transfer. Consider him. Keep him in mind, they're definitely better defensively as well. They've conceded 1 goal in those 3 victories, and that was an own goal, right? So I think they're in a good position now, Newcastle. There's still some fixtures which are winnable for them. I mean, how do you feel that your team's playing them at the weekend? How do you feel about it now?
It's going to be a difficult game. I think it's the game we need, though. Actually, to be honest with you, if I could, I do think that we'll put a tough performance up against them, but it's going to be more difficult than say if you'd asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago, for sure. Am I confident that we're going to come away with a win? No, but I do still think obviously we're clearly favourites and we should be winning.
I translate what Suj said because he was just talking nonsense. Please don't bench Jared Bowen this week.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But before
let's talk about it now.
Before we do, I mean, you're talking about Villa getting 5 points from the last 6, not being good enough. Bar 60 seconds at Leicester, you would have 4 in your last 6.
Someone tweeted me last week and was trying to be really, really clever, saying, I don't know how Conte will react from 3 consecutive defeats, and was implying, look, you're definitely getting beat at Man City. It'll be 3 in a row. No, that'll be 4 in a row, mate. Yes. We're already on 3 in a row defeats.
Yes.
That was drivel all the way through yesterday. So I think on Wednesday, I could reflect on the game, and there were a few particularly offensive, and actually there were a couple of offensive positives in the game yesterday in the second half as well. But I think on Wednesday, sometimes you just got to look at it and go, fuck me, Southampton were really good.
But then the three changes in the team, Emerson Roar dropping out, well, he had a bad game, so I can understand that. Region, I'm not so sure about, but Sessegnon's not a bad replacement, fine. And then Bentancur coming in the middle makes you a better football team. So the three changes he made to your starting lineup, I didn't think he was wrong to make them after Emerson Roar had such a shit game. Bentancur is clearly a better footballer, and fine, if he wants to swap out Region for Sessegnon, fine.
As I said on Friday, the answer is never.
No, but then it's A or B.
Go on.
It's
For
A
those
or B.
who don't listen to it's
answer
never the answer.
The answer is you need a new right back right now.
My God. That was the first...
Play Tanganga out there or something.
Oh, Tanganga's been injured as well, in fairness. I think he's got to try Lucas Moura there. To be honest, right wing back. The answer, for those who've never listened to this before, the answer to the question is, the answer is never Matt Doherty. Honestly, Emerson got better with every minute yesterday during that game. Honestly, Doherty makes Emerson look world class. Doherty is the only thing that makes Emerson look good. And ironically, Doherty, minutes 70 to 80, decided to start playing forward passes, and actually for 10 minutes he played well, and then Conte took him off anyway. Why Sergio Region had no involvement in that game yesterday, I cannot explain to you. Because even that, he's brought Emerson on for Doherty with 10 minutes to go. Bring Region on for Davis, mate. What are you... I did some really concerning stuff from Antonio Conte yesterday, to be totally honest with you. Region particularly, and we'll highlight our mate Andy from Let's Talk FPL, who tweeted about 5 minutes before the teams come out. Someone had obviously got word that Region wasn't going to start. And Andy tweeted, I really should have listened to Planet FPL pod about Region, because Andy was sliding in my DMs. I told him to do nothing. So, and I'll keep repeating it, like, guys, honestly, I'm being really serious. If you're looking at a Spurs defensive player for the sake that they've got a double game week, and the first of those fixtures is Manchester City away, you really need to think hard about what you're doing.
Yep.
Honestly, do not go anywhere near. Kane, Son, if it works for you, fine. But again, I would not move, say, Sterling to Son or Mahrez to Son or moves like that at the moment. I would even second guess going Fernandes to Son because of what I said about midfield runners against Leeds United. So Sonny doesn't look fit at the moment, by the way.
Right.
He basically walked through the last 10 minutes because he's obviously got enough quality. You want to leave him on the pitch when you're chasing the game. But it was one point where I think Emerson had the ball just after he came off, and Son motioned like this as he was about to receive the passes in, don't give it to me. That's not good. Because you're a big player for Tottenham. You got to take responsibility. Harry's performance was fine. Like, he had 8 shots. There's 3 more shots than any other player in the game week so far, with obviously United, Brighton to go. Although none of them big chances, I will add. Although I think for Kane, the chance he had with his left foot in the second half, it probably is a big chance for Harry Kane with the way he can finish. He didn't particularly play well, but he didn't particularly play badly either. I think right now, if you were desperate to have Kane or Son, preference would be with Harry Kane. Defensively, the reason I mentioned obviously Region is I've said the wing-backs get through such work that they are rotation risks. Now, Region is definitely first choice for Tottenham, but I cannot explain to you why he's had no involvement against Wolves 4 days after playing 80 minutes against Southampton. And then Tottenham don't have a midweek fixture. I really don't know what the thinking there is. Poor Ryan Sessegnon did nothing of good or bad in the opening 20 minutes particularly, but Conte had to change the formation because we were getting completely dominated. And at that point, there's no point waiting until the second half. You're 2 goals down against Wolves. Stop wasting time. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. So he changed the system. Sessegnon got a good reception from the fans, and Conte treated him really well when he walked around the pitch as well. Made a point of having a quiet word with him, and I think explaining it was tactical. But yeah, some of Conte's decision in terms of... I can't explain the Region one. I can't give you a good explanation for why he didn't start. He will be a rotation risk. The same will apply to the wing-backs. Centre-back, they're absolutely fucked without Eric Dyer. Absolutely. Look at the body language of some of the stuff that went on yesterday, and if you haven't seen it, please do. I mean, Romero, I said this the first time I saw him. It's David Luiz, Mark, too, mate. He's either going to be 9 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. There's nothing in between with him.
What were Wolves like? Because I bought Kilman happy with my clean sheet, and not even clean sheet, 7-pointer. Are you adding any Wolves for the double game week? I'm not adding any Spurs for the double game week. I'm not bothered at all now. So
I saved the rest of my Tottenham rants for Wednesday's Tottenham. Wolves, really good. They thoroughly deserve to win, no doubt about it. Very different performance from Southampton's performance on Wednesday. Far more, should we say, professionalism in Wolves' performance. They were certainly benefited by 2 gifts given to them from Tottenham. And Hugo Lloris, I mean, man, I always stick up for him. What is he doing on the first goal? Why is he punching that? The first save's not good. He doesn't push it wide enough. And one of his real strengths is actually making saves that averts the ball away from danger. The second punch is just bizarre. Jimenez takes it really well. All I saw in the build-up to kick-off was Wolves fans moaning about Dendoncker playing. It's finally shown that he is the 5th best midfielder in FPL, just around about 20 months later than everybody would have wanted. They played a young boy, Lee Cundle, in midfield, who very quietly went about his business, worked really hard, really neat and tidy on the ball. He's only 19, good talent, name to watch out for. It was certainly surprising to see him in the team. But then Tottenham's midfield will give you freedom to play at times. I'm definitely going to talk about Tottenham's midfield more on Wednesday's Patreon pod. Good Wolves. I would like Tottenham to go and fucking offer to buy Wolves' whole back three. Kilman is absolutely fantastic, by the way. Has to be in the next England squad. Roman Saiz has had an extremely good season, which I think has gone under the radar. And Connor Cody just glues it in between the two of them. Absolutely great. And goalkeeper... he's so good. When I went to Molineux in game week 2, I came back to you and I said to you, do you know what? There's a presence about him. Sometimes you just get a feeling about goalkeepers in the way they kind of command their area, their composure and stuff. He gives off an aura of a goalkeeper that's not going to get beaten very often, which I think
he hasn't been.
And it certainly helps towards Wolves' defensive record this season. Really, he particularly, I think, probably should be goalkeeper of the season. I think extraordinarily good, so consistent. They're really good defensively, which gives them a chance in any game. Because admittedly, the other way, they've got issues in terms of scoring and creativity. I think I saw a few of our Wolves patrons saying on Slack that they didn't think Wolves played well second half, but I think it's very natural when you're 2-0 up against a Tottenham side that kind of struggles for creativity themselves, that you're going to sit off the ball. Neves is really good, obviously. They missed Moutinho in terms of, I think that they would have had better control in the second half.
It's the second week in a row that they've missed them.
If Moutinho had played. But they're right in with a shout.
Yeah, if we don't, we're not likely to get top 4. It's Wolves that I want to obviously take it. And let's wrap with the last Desmond 2-2, Leicester 2, West Ham 2. I didn't know if you would have even got home in time, or were you in the pub drowning your sorrows to watch any of it?
No. To be honest, I went home and
cried into a pillow.
I grabbed my son and let him put a smile on my face. I didn't watch your game. Couldn't be fucking arsed. Just on Aït-Nouri, by the way. I think it's one quickly important to cover because he didn't play Thursday. He did come back in yesterday. And Johnny is obviously available now as well. And there's some really interesting quotes from Bruno Lage about when he's going to use Marcal, when he's going to use Aït-Nouri, and when he's now going to use Johnny as well. So, God, that sounded wrong, didn't it? But Aït-Nouri is a rotation risk. He's definitely the best, but if you're looking for a guarantee that he's going to play twice in the double...
Max Kilman and be done with it.
He may not, essentially.
Leicester 2, West Ham 2. It wasn't a great game of football.
I'll leave this to you, boy.
The conditions didn't really help. It was very wet and very slippery. You could tell players were slipping a little bit. The first half was predominantly West Ham, really, controlling the midfield. Leicester didn't feel threatened at all in the entire first half that they were going to score a goal. The odd couple of times Patson Daka got in behind. And this is Patson Daka. Virgil van Dijk was saying how quick he was. Issa Diop kept up with him generally. His pace did help him, and Diop had one of his better games. But that handball for the penalty just before half-time was massive, because had we gone into the break 1-0 and completely in control of the game versus they've just equalised and gone in with a completely different mindset. And what Creswell had possibly one of his worst games in a while. He It was up against him that Pereira got in to head the second goal. It was his ridiculous chicken wing flap handball.
It was definitely a penalty, wasn't it?
Oh, come on, man. You don't flap your chicken wings like that, mate. And as a result, obviously, Leicester got ahead. The second half, West Ham really struggled. The first half, they couldn't get near our midfielders. The amount of times that we won fouls because they were just too slow in the tackle. They really grew into the game, though, did Leicester. They got better. Pereira got better. Harvey Barnes had a bad first half, but was better in the second half. And I think a draw in the end was probably a fair result on the whole 90. But when you give away the points in the last minute from a set-piece goal, it feels like you've thrown away a win and that Leicester should have won and we nicked it. Looking at the whole 90, I think West Ham should have won. But West Ham now are really good. They've got a problem in depth because there's a number of players that are not in good form. And I can't fault any of them for effort. Like any player that I criticise for not being in good form, it's not because they're not putting in a shift. Like Souček, it's not that he's not putting in a shift. Antonio, it's not that he's not putting in a shift. Cresswell, since he came back from his back injury over Christmas when he missed a number of games, hasn't been as good as he has been previously. And obviously we're playing with a makeshift two centre-backs and Zuma obviously didn't play, but Ogbonna's been missing for a while. So what do you do? Well, we don't have another striker to come in instead of Antonio. We're not going to play Alex Crowell or Mark Noble ahead of Thomas Souček. And we don't have a left back. We're going to get Masuaku out. So we have a problem where certain players are not at their best and we don't have replacements to come in for them. So Bowen, on the other hand, though, right, anytime, any place now, he's just so good and clinical. When he gets in front of goal, Bowen, keep. I wouldn't bother with any other West Ham assets. And Antonio, keep for Newcastle. I just think home game against Newcastle, it's a bit hard to sell unless you really are in a luxury position where you can move them on to a double game week forward. And the only one you'd really want to go to maybe would be Kane. So you'd have to have money as well. Leicester, on the other hand, I still think, nah, not yet. Not yet. Without Vardy, they didn't look great. People have been critical of Tielemans now all season. Hasn't been particularly as good as he could be. He's not signing a new contract, is he, there? As they kept going on about on Sky. So.
No, I think Tielemans will leave in the summer. What I did see of the game looked like he played a lot better second half. They played with a midfield
They
three,
played
right?
better in the second half. Dewsbury Hall was decent in the second half. They were good in the second half. They kept the ball much better. We couldn't really get close to them.
I heard Barnes ripped Soufal several times over.
Only in the second half. First half, Barnes was anonymous.
Is that why Soufal came off, though?
Yeah. But both fullbacks had a bad game. Barnes, there's Maddison's all right still, but they weren't filling me with joy that I really want to pile into them, especially because they don't have doubles coming up. And there's other teams with better assets. Leicester need Madison, Jamie Vardy back, and they need Johnny Evans back. And they just need a little bit more of their spine there, which they don't have right now. Like Amati ain't going to fill you with a lot of joy, is he?
I'm fascinated to see what they're going to do with this Conference League. Because really they should go for it. They're going to really struggle for Europe again this season. They're obviously not going to get relegated. I really think they should go for it in that competition. I'm interested to see if they will. Obviously, if they do, that could have a further negative impact in terms of their league results upcoming. I wanted to ask you, there are questions, Suj, on a captain hypothetical question. If Mo Salah had a double game week of Tottenham at home and Aston Villa away, and Jared Bowen had a double game week of Norwich away and Burnley at home, who would you captain?
Bowen on a current form, possibly. I'm not fearful. He has chances in every game, and he is proving more and more clinical. He's got an eye for goal now that he hasn't had previously. So Norwich away, Burnley at home, I wouldn't mind. But then the challenge with that is the style of football. Norwich are going to sit in, Burnley are going to sit in, and we struggle breaking teams down. Sorry, let me answer your question. I'd probably still captain Salah I wouldn't be fearful of captaining Bowen, but I'd probably still captain Salah.
What if
any game where you're like, okay, I don't know.
What if I changed that to Salah had Tottenham at home and Arsenal away, and Bowen had Norwich away and Burnley at home?
Yeah, I'd probably still go with
Salah.
Bowen.
You go with Bowen.
I'd go with Bowen in that instance if you had Arsenal away. But it's difficult, but there's not much in it. The
reason I highlight this is kind of full circle back to the start of the conversation in terms of triple captain versus bench boost. For those who bench boost this game week, there is a chance, psychologically, that you are going to want a triple captain in game week 36, knowing that many others can't. In the scenario that West Ham make the FA Cup semi-finals, that double game week scenario is a possibility for game week 36, where West Ham could have their fixture against Burnley in game week 33 move to game week 36, which would give them that double of Norwich away and Burnley at home. And that might be the one for the triple captains, for those not using the triple captain this week. I can't guarantee that will happen, by the way, because it could be it just stays, that Burnley fixture in 33. It could be that it just stayed as a single game week fixture in 33 and moved to the midweek afterwards. Therefore, Bowen's likely double in that circumstance would actually be Norwich away and Tottenham away, which wouldn't appeal quite as much. But I mention it because I think that's the sort of likely best captaincy options you might be looking at in game week 36 for those who then want a triple captain to go against everyone else's bench boost in 36 for those who are going the other way this week.
Indeed, there we go. And we've been through...
Do you think you'll make the FA Cup semi-finals?
No.
Okay, that ends that argument then anyway.
No.
Got any Twitter questions?
No. Only football ones. I went through them all and there's no non-football related
questions. There's no Valentine's questions. Literally none.
There's literally, should I triple captain Matt Doherty? Where's Region? Just all of that jazz. Nothing that we haven't particularly been through at all. But yeah, Valentine's Day, listeners, we love you. I hope the rundown of all the games has been useful. We've got plenty of content this week, though. What do we have tomorrow? People's Poll, sir.
No, COTC. Liverpool versus
double
Leeds.
COTC this week.
Yeah, Liverpool v Leeds tomorrow with FPL Loco Lord, FPL Tactician. Thursday, yes, I will do it. Bradley Parker, 3-5-0. Arsenal versus Wolves for Thursday. Wednesday, Sky Fantasy
Clash of the top four. It's those two.
Friday, I'll be... Fuck off. Friday,
it's not you or me, mate, is it? Let's be honest.
Friday I'll do my Suj James stream. Our Patreon content this week includes the return of UCL Fantasy tomorrow on our Patreon network. Q&A Monday. Wednesday, I'm going to properly dismantle Tottenham because it would have taken the whole podcast today. If I did, I'll do that on Wednesday. Thursday, quiz. You're going to really like the quiz this week.
Topic is?
FPL higher or lower.
Okay. Play your cards
a little bit.
Indeed.
And Friday will be our Game Week 26 preview. Advanced tier Patreon content includes, I'm going to have a look at Leicester's defensive set piece problem and break down the goals that they are conceding from corners and try and figure out why is it happening over and over again, just to make sure that buying James Tarkowski is the right thing for me to do. I'll also draft what I think would be an ideal free hit team as well. But as I said near the start of the show, I recommend people looking at a free hit team this week of just players who've got a single game week and see how it looks to you. And I bet you'll go, fucking hell, it looks great. It will look better than what your game week 30 team will look like anyway.
Good. Thank you again for listening. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode and we'll be back at you tomorrow. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. And remember, particularly this week, play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.